Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome again to Chronically Wealth Club Radio. This is your host, Rebecca Naylor, and I am still celebrating 20 years living in remission from multiple sclerosis and very happy to be creating this show as a collaboration with MS&Me Global Support Network to share everything I've learned over the past 20 years with you, my listeners, and really help you to discover your power to heal and recreate your life. So today we have an exciting episode. I am here with one of my dear friends, colleagues, mentors, etc., Shireen Francis. We're going to be talking a lot about mindset today, mindset and cognition, and a bit on emotions as well. So before we start, I'm just going to remind you about my 9 keys of healing. So if this is your first time listening in, each one of my shows will comment on at least one of these 9 key areas, which are really important to pay attention to when we are optimizing our wellness using functional and lifestyle medicine. So the 9 areas that I focus on are diet, toxins, emotions, movement, community, cognition, your environment, gut, and finally, mindset and belief, the main topic for today. So let me start by introducing our guest. I have with me today Shireen Francis. Say hi, Shireen.
Hello.
So Shireen is a business and life coach. She's also a hypnosis trainer. And she helps entrepreneurs primarily to create success through mindset and the mind-body connection. So she really helps people to achieve success and total wellness through a lot of self-awareness and inner work. Now, I met Shireen about 2 years ago through a great organization called Happy Healthy Women. And Shireen was absolutely fundamental in helping me to make the transition I needed to make from my unhealthy job as a public high school teacher to being an entrepreneur myself. And although the career transition was important, it was really the coaching that Shireen did and how it helped me to see possibilities beyond what was already in my life and to really see how my self-talk and my inner work and my beliefs and my mindset were affecting me. All of those things contributed to that huge transformation. So I want to first start with a thank you, gratitude, Shireen,
Oh my goodness, you're welcome.
for everything that you've done in my life. And so I was really excited to have Shireen on the show to share some of her wisdom with us. So today we're going to be talking about the unconscious, talking about hypnotism, debunking some of the myths, about that, and about why it's important to work with a coach in general.
Yeah.
So why don't you start by just, in your own words, telling us a bit about what it is that you do.
Awesome. So I work with entrepreneurs mainly, but actually anyone that's looking for more of what they want in their life. So I've worked with career professionals as well, people that really have tried other things. It could be that they're having a block in moving forward in their business, or they are having trouble deciding where to go with their career, and they've done other things and they haven't quite solved the problem. And so usually when people come to me, it's looking for that deep rooted reason why they are not moving. And so I help them get to the root of their problems, which tend to come from the place of your mind, which is called the unconscious. That's the part of you that drives and runs all your behavior. And we get to that unconscious part and we untangle whatever belief systems that are running your behaviors. We untangle them and we create something new that's going to support you in moving forward.
Amazing. And what I love about what Shireen does is that, yes, it can help you with career transitions, life transitions, relationship transitions, but I personally saw a huge transition in my health, which is why I really wanted to share this with my listeners, because the same limiting beliefs that can hold us back professionally can also hold us back from our optimal wellness.
Right.
So Well, we'll talk more about how it relates to health, but let's start with some basics so we make sure that everyone's on the same page. When we're talking about the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, can you help us understand that distinction?
Yes, so you should know that your brain has a conscious faculty and an unconscious faculty that is separated by the critical faculty. And the conscious part of your brain is responsible for logic. And really, that's pretty much it. It's about 10% of your brain, give or take. The unconscious part of your mind is the real powerhouse. That's the part of you that stores your emotions, it stores your memories. It's the part of you that runs all your behaviors, all of your everything pretty much. You're blanking right now, Rebecca, and you didn't have to think logically to blank, right?
Yeah.
If you had to consciously remember to do that, you couldn't do it much at all, right? And so our unconscious mind is really how we do. It's the doing part of us, and that was the unconscious. The conscious part is the part that just makes logical connections. 1 + 1 is 2. Is the part of you that will make a decision. So, for example, where health goals are concerned, you might consciously decide to stop eating sugar, white sugar, but unconsciously the body feels like it still wants more. And so being aware of where your body is feeling and moving is so important, because it's the part of us that's going to actually deliver on our conscious decisions to be more healthy.
The sugar example is interesting because, yeah, we might make the decision in our conscious mind, okay, I'm going to stop eating white sugar because I know that it's a drug and it's terrible for my health. Yeah, we can have those physical cravings, but it's almost like, do you believe that you can resist sugar?
Yeah.
That's what's really going to determine your success.
Right. And that's the thing. There's a great old proverb that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. It's a popular old ancient personal development book. But this is very true because, again, in the unconscious mind, that's where your beliefs are stored. How you see yourself now and in the future is there. And so if you believe that you are one person that is never going to give up that chocolate, or you're never going to give up that donut, you're going to continue to fire in your neurology those sensations that make you crave it, because you have decided to make it a part of your identity. So a part of this healthy walk is letting go of the old identity that was attached to the other unhealthy habits, and embracing this new belief of who am I as this holistic, healthy person that is nourishing, self with great food. And so the decision to make a healthy walk really starts with the mind and who you think you are and your belief system.
Right. So because the unconscious mind, I mean, it's unconscious. We're not aware of it. We don't hear it in our head the way we hear our conscious mind sort of talking to ourselves, right? The self-talk. So how does one become aware of what their self-conscious does believe? How do we figure out what those limiting beliefs might be?
Well, to be honest, Rebecca, we don't hear because over time we've stopped listening. And so one thing I do with my clients is I help them start to listen again and gain rapport. So your conscious mind and unconscious might be out of rapport, meaning you're listening only to the conscious, but maybe there was the inner gut feeling of something, but you've over time been ignoring that inner gut. So that was actually your unconscious and your body communicating with you. But if we've stopped listening to that voice over time, then it's just all head. And so when your practitioner or your yoga teacher tells you to get out of your head and into your body, that's what they mean.
Right.
It's really understanding that part. So how do we start to listen and hear our unconscious? Well, one, it's the act of understanding the hypnotic processes that happen.
Okay.
And so I guess this brings us to hypnosis with the idea of you getting into a trance state.
Now let's pause there, because
Yeah.
a lot of people, I'm imagining, because this was me for the first time. We hear hypnosis and we think about those like almost performance hypnotists that make people run around like chickens, right? So really define hypnosis for us.
Sure. So hypnosis is just the act of being in trance. And what is trance? It's a normal state of being. You are in trance 95% of the day. It's when you focus on something, right? So if you're watching TV, if you're driving a car, when you're reading a book, when you're in conversation, when you're listening to music, any type of focus in any particular area of your life is an act of being in trance. And so there are different levels of trance that you can be in, though. And so what I help people do is quiet down and focus inward, and so that they can hear the conversations that are happening in their head, because there are always conversations happening. It's just a matter of tuning into what those conversations are. And so here's an example. I was actually coaching someone this morning in the area of health, and they were saying, Shireen, I really just want to stop eating junk food. And she was telling me a story about how she was at a restaurant and there was, I guess, some slices of cake. Everyone had one piece, but she just had this urge to have another. And she did, and she ate it, and she felt guilty for it after. And so we slowed down so that we can be more aware of what type of hypnosis was she experiencing at the time. And when I say hypnosis, what type of conversation was happening? How was she hypnotically suggesting her body to react?
Right.
And so we slowed things down, and I said, what was the last thing you heard yourself say before you ate the cake? And she said, well, I said to myself, oh, I'm out of control. I'm gaining weight, and I'm going to, I want this. And so those words are hypnotic. They were suggestions to her body to move in the direction of gaining weight and being out of control.
Right.
And so simply, once you have awareness, now you can change the conversations on her head. So then what we did is we did a hypnotic technique to tell her mind to do something else next time. And really, it's all about the conversation right before you eat the cake, right before you decide not to work out. What was the conversation that and the suggestions you gave yourself as to why you did or did not? The more we tune into that, is the more we'll be able to have a little bit more personal power and control of where we take our health, our hormones, and every part of our cellular structures.
I like how the real purpose of identifying what those limiting beliefs are is in order to essentially replace them.
Yes.
Right? To recognize how they're not serving you, and then to realize that we can consciously and purposely choose to replace them, like to really purposely put ourselves in a trance towards something that's going to be beneficial to us. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
Right? So trance is also another word for story. So what story or identity are you living? Are you living this identity where you were someone that just, eats whatever you want, does whatever you want? Are you living that trance? Or do you want to take on a new trance and a new story and live something out and play something else out? And it's pretty profound down to the cellular level, because your unconscious mind is connected to every single cell in the body. You are communicating with each cell at every moment, telling it what to do and when to do it and how to feel, act, all of that. So it's very powerful when you really break it down and learn how to tune in and communicate a new story. It's not that we're not communicating with ourselves right now.
Oh, we're communicating a lot.
A lot.
Like maybe over communicating.
That's the thing. Like we're in trance all the time. All of us, we're always in hypnosis.
And think about modern society, right?
Yeah.
You're just walking down the street. Think about the number of things you hear, conversations, billboards that you observe, snippets of radio shows. It's all of those things are entrancing us, right?
Yes.
And think about how that affects all the areas, your body image, how you think about yourself.
Right.
I like the idea of the story, thinking of them as stories. when I was trying to identify what my stories were, for example, someone said to me, what do you put after the words I can't? And that tells you what some of your stories are.
Right.
Because as soon as you hear the words I can't, so listeners, think about this right now. When I say I can't, what's the first thing that comes to you? You might think, I can't find the energy to make dinner tonight. I can't be a good father. I can't control pain, right? And so that is your belief. And if it is your belief, as you said, as you think, as
a man thinketh, so is he.
So is he, right?
Yeah.
So then how would one use these principles to recreate their story as someone who can do those things?
Right. So Rebecca, I'm sure you would say the same thing, but this is a lifestyle, right? This is not, I think when we stop looking for the one hit wonder is the more we'll realize that all of this is a lifestyle. And so it's the practice and art of tuning in, what am I hearing? And then rearranging that and constantly correcting yourself. To begin with, you might be correcting yourself every minute. I remember when I just started the practice of self-awareness, I put an alarm on my clock every hour to tune into my body and hear myself, just so that I'd get used to hearing. And it's a lifestyle, right? So the more you, and at first you might feel like, well, this is really, you might have felt like, no, this is really my reality. I really feel this way. And honor, but beliefs can change. Honor where you are now, that you really feel that this is reality. And now decide that you're going to slowly let go of that reality. Rebecca, we're processing about 7 million bits of information every second. Every second.
Wow.
But guess what? We only can handle and process 7 of those bits.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about this a year ago, and you were saying something like, put your attention on your sock. Do you see how you can feel the fabric against your foot? You could always feel that before I drew your attention to it.
Right.
You just weren't focusing on it,
exactly. Right? So we're focusing on one small 0.004% of anything that's ever happening in our reality. Wow. So it's really not about disregarding what part of your reality you're experiencing. It's just choosing to focus on a different subset. So what if the potential was that you could have the energy right now? What would that look like and feel like? And entertain that thought, because what happens is you're starting to communicate with your cells this new potential and this new idea in this area that you might not have thought of before.
And entertaining that thought visually. Like you said, really entertain it, visualize it, imagine it, feel it. Right? What would that feel like? Even when there was a time that I couldn't walk because I was experiencing paralysis. Like, I was only a kid and I didn't understand what I was doing back then. But part of how I got myself out of that was through what I know now as the power of visualization, which is a form of trance. Just picturing myself running at that full speed and remembering that sensation. And that I think was a big part of getting myself out of that. I love what you said about it being a lifestyle, because affirmations are a thing right now, right? Everyone's all about the affirmations and the visualizations, and for good reason, because they work. What I try and work with my clients on, same as you, is recognizing that affirmations are not something you do for 5 minutes a day when it's in your calendar. It's not like you wake up and you affirm for 5 minutes and then you stop affirming for the rest of the day. Like it or not, every thought is an affirmation.
That's right.
So you have to recognize that. Like, you have to listen to your thoughts, because whatever you're thinking, you're affirming. Right. So just 5 minutes a day of purposeful affirmation is not enough. It's
I forgot what the amount is, but I think we have like thousands of thoughts per day. So if you're only doing 5 minutes, and let's say you're doing an affirmation every 2 seconds, that's not in proportion to the other amount. And so it's a lifestyle, a moment to moment, and I think the number one thing is be patient with yourself on this journey.
Since I started to learn about this, it's been over a decade. And am I perfect? No. Heck no. But I first became aware of this literally in 2007, 10 years ago. And it's still something that on a regular basis I go, oh, hang on. What was that thought?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Cancel, take two,
Yes, yes.
Let's try that again. I don't
Right.
want to affirm that because the universe just says yes.
Yes, and that's
Whatever
right.
you think, they just say, okay.
That's right. The universe and the universe in your body says it, right? And so if you think of all your cells as little soldiers, and your wish is my command, that is what's happening in your body,
Right.
just as much as in the universe at large.
And I love how earlier in the conversation you were talking about, your brain and your mind as compared to, your heart and your intuition. And I saw a diagram recently, which I loved, which I'm seeing more and more being acknowledged scientifically now, which is that we no longer see the brain as only in the brain.
Yes.
There's like this idea of the three brains now, right?
Yeah.
The brain that's in your skull, the brain that's in your heart,
Yes.
and the brain that's in your gut.
Yes.
Because it was really disregarded for a long time when people would say, oh, but I feel it in my heart, it's the wrong thing. Or I have a gut feeling, people would describe their intuition being in their gut. And we now know that a lot of the communication between, for example, your gut and your brain, it's a two-way communication.
Yes.
It's not like you think something in your brain and it manifests in your gut.
Yeah.
A lot of the time things start in your gut.
Yeah.
Your gut knows first.
Right.
And then your gut, where your immune system lives, sends a message to your brain to alert it.
Yes.
So then what's really the brain or the gut?
Yeah. So I mean, when we talk about the brain is the thing in your head, but the mind is, that's your body, but then that's connected to everything else in terms of your senses. So, from what we know is that we have 5 senses, and those senses pick up on things in our environment. And the process of interpreting those senses through touch, sight, those happen in the mind, which aren't just in the brain, they're throughout your body, right? You could imagine if someone touched your toe, that process started down there, and then let you know in the mind what happened that
Amazing.
I touched your toe.
Yeah. There are so many buzzwords right now that we hear all the time, this idea of holistic.
Yeah.
Right? And we kind of laugh it off,
Yeah.
But that is really, like, that's what it is. It is a holistic view of health, as in the whole.
Yes.
Right? That
Yes.
this is, that you cannot separate the mind from the body, from
No.
the foot. I mean,
Yes.
it's,
Yes.
a while ago I did a show on psychoneuroimmunology, which is this idea, a guy I'm working with who's a neuropsychiatrist is really working in a field of getting rid of this idea of neurology, brain, psychology, mind, and bringing them together to say you can't separate the
They
two.
are together.
It's just brain health. Like, it's just, it's all integrated.
Yeah,
right?
it is so much. And, beyond that, and so much related to our cells as well, and to our health and our physical bodies. It's a two-way street. You get information into your mind and you process that, and then you have a behavior. So for example, you might eat something, it's processed and gone in the body.
Yeah.
But then there's also that communication with the mind putting out a new product or behavior. So it's a two-way, and we need to look at the in and the out, the up and the down, the whole the whole thing,
Well,
including environment as well, community, all of that. They're all interconnected.
I'm glad you mentioned the two-way thing, because it brings me back to the next thing I want to just touch on briefly before we wrap up, and that is the whole concept of coaching. So yes, I'm a health coach, but I have coaches.
Yeah.
Because it always, to me, nobody's at the top of this coaching train. I always give the example that, even the Prime Minister has coaches.
Yes.
He has an advisory council. He doesn't do it solo.
Yes.
Right? So, I am a coach, but you are a coach for
Yes.
me. I have people who work with me in all different areas of my life. What is the benefit of working with a coach rather than trying to do something alone?
Yes. So every coach needs a coach. Everyone needs a mentor. Everyone needs community. I think the biggest thing is perception, right? So again, we're filtering our environment based on our perception. However, if you were to consult with somebody else or ask somebody else their perception, they might be able to point out something else that you've never seen. Remember, you're only seeing 7 out of the 7 million.
Right.
Someone else will see a different 7 out of the 7 million. So when we're, let's say, stuck in a problem, it could be that we're just not seeing the solution. And this is why it's really great to have another great set of eyes.
It's almost like that you can't see the forest for the trees kind of thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I know that, I mean, I am a health coach, yet I see a naturopath.
Yes.
And I was just at my appointment with her yesterday, and there's nothing she said to me that I didn't on a surface level already quote unquote know.
Right.
And yet it wasn't in place in my life until I sat down with her and mapped out that plan and had that accountability.
Yes, that's another thing. Accountability, a different set of eyes, and not only a coach would have a set of eyes that saw multiple experiences that are probably related in some way. And so, leveraging the expertise of somebody, the accountability, and there's also something about investing into your health with a resource of money. Why? Because you have your skin in the game, is what they say. You have decided that I paid for this and I'm going to work through this with this person. There's just something called, so I teach people the philosophy of using your resources, time, money, and energy. And it's a way of showing the universe, this is my commitment. I'm putting my stake in the ground and I want to create change.
And that's when you make the decision to take action.
Exactly.
Amazing. That's an awesome place to wrap up today. We could just talk for hours, but I do want to give you time to let people know how they can reach out. So if they want to find Shireen Francis, how do they do that?
Go to ShireenFrancis.com, CHERENE, Francis.com.
Awesome. And for those of you who are following along and would like more information about Chronically Well Club, you can check out my main website, www.chronicallywell.club. You can find links there to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can also find information about the essential oils and Vox neurotechnology that I recommend for all of my clients and people with MS. Also, if you are ready yourselves to step up and work with a coach, reach out to Shireen, reach out to me, reach out to another coach in your community. I can't recommend it enough. Whenever I take the time to do it, I see amazing, amazing results. You can also reach me by email at rebecca@chronicallywell.club. Please do send me your feedback and questions because I'd love to create a dialogue. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Shireen. It was a pleasure.
I had fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and be well, everyone.